Okay, I will start. I start sharing screen. I hope that you see me. Okay, and you see my screen. Predict. We'll put it as a large. Thank you again for this kind opportunity for me to participate in this great seminar and webinar sessions. My name is Goran Đurđević. My today topic is what is reflection, mirrors and reflection in the global antiquities, comparison between the Roman and Qin and Han Empire. So first of all, I will discuss about why Rome and China. And the Rome and China have occupied the same continent, Eurasia, while the Rome occupied the western, China occupied the eastern part, and they have been similar in the size, population, imperial structures, and time frameworks, which makes them interesting for research. In the last years, scholars developed the different methods of researching Rome and China. Those methods have been part of Silk Road studies, which have been, for example, interesting for connection in finding some kind of archaeological artifacts or historical sources from one empire to another, or comparison studies, which have been compared into ways of ideas, philosophy, archaeological elements, imperial structures, processes, and different parts. I choose the comparative method, and my topic is related to mirrors. Mirrors not as a metaphor, mirrors as real archaeological objects which have been related to reflection or designed for reflection. And why I choose mirrors is because those two empires, they produced the largest number of mirrors of the several thousands of mirrors. Of course, it's very hard to predict the final number of mirrors, but it's quite larger than other political entities at the same time, even if we compare Persian, Indian, Central Asian empires, or if we compare warring states period in China or Etruscans or Greeks in the Mediterranean area. So Han Dynasty, Qin and Han in China and Rome have the largest number of mirrors. That is the one reason. The second reason is that the mirrors have used different technology and they have been made from different materials. In China, bronze. In the Rome, not just bronze, but also combination of lead glass plus silver, gold, and other metallic mirrors, even the iron mirrors. And also, which is interesting, the mirrors have two sides. One is decorative side, another is reflective sides. These decorative sides is maybe more interesting for us as archaeologists. And also this part is part of global antiquities. It is pretty newly established field of globalization in the ancient world. It means sometimes connection and comparison of Mediterranean and East Asia, and the scholarship are trying to focus on differences and similarities. This presentation today will be a more theoretical presentation, less it will be related to some exact archaeological sites or exact archaeological materials, because if I understood clearly, this is theoretical Roman archaeology seminars, so I will focus on how I develop my theory and my concepts. First of all, mirrors could be understood from the different perspectives. Myself has been born and raised and trained firstly in Croatia, later in United States, India, and China. This means that I try to integrate different archaeological schools, different archaeological ways of understanding past. In the context of mirrors, we can pretty clearly define at least three different ways of understanding past. The first is related to objects, and we can say this is Central European or Southeast European way of understanding past, where the past is still understood or cultures and historical cultural paradigm of objects, where the objects are divided according to typology, technology, production sites, or material. These cultural depictions has been mostly compared in the archaeological or art historian ways of some symbols or some representations or differences between them. The second is related to art, and this is related to Chinese ways of understanding archaeology and art history, which is mostly related to styles, symbols, and motifs instead of, for example, social or political background of certain archaeological artifacts. So although this is, we can say, eyes of artists, this is used in the lot of uh, traditional Chinese historiography and archaeology about the materials and visual resources. The third is related to mirrors as tokens. Mirrors as tokens have been presented according to their meaning and function, which is used in the Western or mostly American approach, where the mirrors are understood as part of complex social and political environment and used for different ways. So if we have this in mind, I will try to integrate different parts of this, not to exclude. Instead, I would like to include different things, because my opinion is that we can use different parts from different traditions to build the new theoretical frameworks and concepts. My concept is based around reflection. Reflection is not just a physical process of producing reverse image. Instead of this, this is multiple process. We can say reflection in a plural, which is related to perceptions, mental associations, knowledge, and social values with reverse image. This is important because for reflection, we need to have two conditions. The first condition is medium, which is a reflective surface, shiny surface. And another condition is observer, who observed himself or herself. For this presentation, I will focus on mirrors, which means objects made for reflection. I will not use or I will not analyze some other objects that could produce reflections. For example, water, or for example, different reflective sources, marble or some other polished stones or other metallic sources. It is also interesting, but maybe this is some other parts of research. Also, as we can see from these images of TLV mirror from Han Dynasty, it is called TLNV because of these three Latin letters, TLNV, as we can see. Oh, I'm sorry, just go back. And another is Hele Phrixus and Golden Ram from Roman Empire. We have important parts. This part is decorative side of the mirror, which is opposite of reflective side. And this part can be used as precondition for concept of Professor Wu Hung, double screen, where one screen is decorative part with decoration, which is related to certain political and social context, and the readers who can read inscriptions, text, and also visual representations, and also reflection as our reverse image or reverse image of observers. Also, I use term small monumentality of the same professor, Professor Wu Hung from Chicago University, because monumentality is understood as new objects who are created for new political and social purposes and built to establish new political ideas. And I put this prefix small because mirrors are small as objects. They are usually on handle or hand objects, but also small because mirrors are less significant than other big monumentality objects. So this reflection, according to this definition, is defined into three chronological subconcepts. The first chronological subconcept is pre-reflection, which is actually reflection of past, reflection of history. This pre-reflection could be related to our individual past, for example, childhood or some parts of previous life, but also to institutional organized memory, for example, imperial history or imperial past, or related to religious or other perspectives on the past life and narratives and myths of the past. The second part is peri-reflection, which is related to usage of mirror in the presence in the context of Qin Han and Roman Empire. And this peri-reflection is related to their social codes and social usage of mirrors, grooming, cosmetics, hairstyles, and various other parts of fashion and taste. And the latest is post-reflection. Post-reflection is related to future, to reflection of posterity, reflection what is going to be, which is related in the religious context to other life and tombs, or in other contexts with the cosmology understood as a world order. This is just one group of reflection subconcepts. Another group is thematical subconcepts, which is divided into 4 different parts. The first is reflection of empire, the second reflection of social identity, the third reflection of soul and religion, and maybe we can say magic and supernatural, and the last part is reflection of beauty. As you can see from this and future slides, all these 4 thematic elements have been divided or differenced into 3 chronological subconcepts. So it means empire or others, they have pre-reflection, peri-reflection, and post-reflection. In the context of empire, mirrors are understood as deep political objects, and they can be used, as Anthony Giddens proposed, as a medium for structures and agencies. And in the context of empire, pre-reflection is related to history, to imperial history, and even the phrase mirror of the past could be used, but this representation of the history, for example, Zeus as a bull and Europa on the Roman mirrors, or different parts of Chinese mirrors, have been understood as mirrors from past events, narrative, mythological, or real events that can be used as educational tool and used for promotion of certain imperial values. Peri-reflection in the context of empire is understood as mirrors or as imperial tools. Mirrors have been tools similar to other small artifacts such as seals or coins, and they have been sent from emperor to the, for example, border regions, which is related to distribution as well, or contact zones or outside parts of empire. As I mentioned, the highest number of mirrors have been found in the different parts of 2 empires, but also on the different places on the Silk Road or outside. For example, we can find Chinese mirrors in Southeast Asia or in Japan, and in these places the Han mirrors have been sent with seal as a part of imperial regalia. So they have been used for promotion of certain imperial idea. Or in the Roman Empire, we have special type of mirror. It's called mirror coin, particular from the Nero era, and it is created as from mirrors and coins, which can be understood as symbolical reflection of emperor and sent over the empire. The post-reflection in the context of empire is designed as cosmology. Cosmology as ideal world order, both for Romans and Chinese, and it is designed like a special shape. For the Roman period, which can be found on the mirrors, it's related with concentric circles, while in the Chinese case, it is related with round or circle mirrors and squared center. This circle or round represents universe, while squared center represents Earth. And in the center of the Earth is Chinese Empire. This cosmology is not just a religion element. This is element of imperial policies, because world order is good and positive if the empire is in the good and positive rule government, and if they control what they should control, including people and lands. The second part is related to social identity. The social identity is particularly related to membership of the group. It could be divided into also three parts. The first part is pre-reflection, as we mentioned before, and it is connected with the self. Self in context of self-recognition, self-recognizing, self-understanding, self-evaluation. And for example, it is not just connected with the mirrors as objects, but also with the various other depictions that have been used for mirroring, or mirrors have been used on them. In some kind of frescoes, where you have, for example, the famous scene with Achilles and Ulysses or Odyssey, when the Achilles is tried to cover himself as a female, and on this scene in the Pompeii, there is found a mirror. There is actually a mirror depicted, which could be understood as reflection of real self. This self is actually related with our past, and it continue to present and future. The peri-reflection of social identity is related particularly with the social code, because the social code was the key element for participation in the certain groups. These groups could be various according to their civilian or military rank, according to wealth, age, gender, etc. But these groups have been some kind of imagined part of the whole empire. Also, the groups have different kinds of hairstyle, clothes, and behavior, which have been controlled by the mirror. Another part is relation with children, not just mirrors as some kind of objects that amulets or magic parts from childhood to adulthood, but also mirrors as part of a family heritage, where we can find, for example, some certain mirrors in the later tombs. And this is some kind of proof of the family heritage, where the adults give mirrors to their children, and their children use them as some part of proudness. For the Roman case, the good example and the good comparison is with the Roman death masks. So these masks have been used also as social promotion and relations to the heritage. As I mentioned, gifts could be in this vertical way from parents to children, or horizontal way from emperor, court, and other parts of empire, or emperor to empire, from one empire to another political states or vassal states, according to Han and Roman perception. The last element is related to individual and collective images and surveillance. The individual images, of course, is related to personal image of the mirror, but as we know, particularly the higher classes of the Rome and China, they did not use mirrors by themselves alone. They have servants, parts of their family or guests who have been there when they are using mirrors. The mirrors could be used for grooming or cosmetics, but also for different kinds of rituals. This is related to collective image. This collective image could be semi-private. It means that one person is observing himself on the mirror and see his reflection image, but also it is related with someone else who is having this mirror in his or her hands and observing the decorative side of the mirror, which means that we can say double mirror. One mirror is another's face, and one mirror is our reflected face on the image, because another face, another visitor can show their behavior, their mimics to ourselves. Also, mirrors are important for surveillance, because according to historical sources, particularly from the Domitian era and from several Han emperors, they built large mirrors, including some kind of polished walls. They have been used for surveillance, and the written sources realize this kind of anxiety. And I borrowed the term from Foucault and Bentham, panopticon, where the empire control the part of their empire. Why is this important? Because according to modern psychological scholarship, observing yourself in the mirror will be easier to obey the rules and follow the hierarchy. So that is, for example, in the contemporary era, reason why we have mirrors in the small fruit markets. Also, now we are going to the third element, which is religion. In religion part, the pre-reflection is related with myths and destiny. So destiny is something that is started from the past and it will follow us from the future. In this context, even if this future is related to end of our life, which is, as you can see, post-reflection of death, metamorphosis, and eternity, mirrors have been tokens, and the mirrors have been used as, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can still hear you. Yeah.
Okay, so I apologize for this small interruption.
No worries.
So as I said, the mirrors could be understood in the context of religion as archives defined by Jacques Derrida as the objects not just made in the past, but also made to preserve and conserve past for presence and the future. Also, in the context of peri-reflection, or reflection of presence, mirrors have been used as a protection, and particularly protection for soul. And this is clearly written in inscription on the mirror, particularly on the lead mirrors from the Southeastern Europe. Also, mirrors have been used for illusion and magic in the various rituals, particularly rituals with Isis in the Africa and Middle East, or special Chinese magic mirrors that have been made just to reproduce decorative sight according to special positioned light in the certain angle. As I mentioned before, post-reflection is related to death, metamorphosis, and eternity. So this post-reflection is related to putting mirror in the tomb, which could reflect and illuminate the tomb and bring the light, but also it could be used to protect the soul and collect the soul and bring her for future life, eternity, and metamorphosis. The last part is beauty. Beauty is understood quite different than in our life, whereas beauty mostly related to physical appearance. And maybe if we use mirrors, we can see mirrors as reflection of our physical appearance. But in the both Qin Han China and in the Rome, beauty is more complex idea, which has political and social and philosophical backgrounds. From this perspective, the pre-reflection is related to coming of age, which means that in this part, beauty is understood in the context of nostalgia, doubt, and shame. So in this context, the beauty has been seen as part of our changing and transformation from physical and also psychological mind transformation. In the peri-reflection, the beauty is developed in the physical and moral beauty, because the moral are also important parts of physical beauty, and the Chinese and Romans understood physical just as representation or metaphor for morality and the moral part of the character. And also it is related to gender. Instead of just binary understanding of gender, male and female, the mirrors have been used for understanding different other parts of gender, including hermaphroditus, immortals, and eunuchs. So different parts of non-gender or different classified in the gender issues. And in the context of beauty and the gender, mirrors are more social and political tools instead of just tools for cosmetics. The last part, post-reflection of beauty, is related to marriage and fertility, which is more social norm and obligation according to imperial laws in the both countries, instead of just love relations, or instead of just beauty relations. Sorry. So reflection through the mirrors could be understood in the three different ways. The first is relation into social archaeology. As I try to explain this, a reflection with all these sub-concepts, including thematical and chronological, shows that mirrors are social and political objects. They're not neutral, or they're not objects just made for enjoyment or for grooming. This idea of the social and political purpose is mostly developed and on the decorative side of the mirror. I didn't go through so many decorative examples, even I didn't present some of them, because my focus was just on the theoretical idea of reflection and mirrors in the context of political and social events. The second part is artes minores, as small archaeological objects as mirrors, which could be affordable and it could be used in the various parts of empire, and how they could be understood as tokens or messengers for big imperial ideas. And the third part is related to shapes, particularly with the cosmology as the key element and the world order, but also choosing of the shapes, decoration, and technology as well, because the Romans and Han China improved technology and produced the largest quantity of mirrors, which we mentioned before. Also, I will just go to the conclusion now. So for conclusion, mirrors are multiple meaning objects with two sides. As we can see here on the Zhao Ming mirror from Han Empire, or Three Graces from the Roman Empire, they have decorative side with the special symbols, decorations understood for certain social and political context of the both empires. Sometimes there are inscriptions as well, or written text, which is followed by ancient written sources. And these multiple meaning objects, which have been used in the religious purposes, magic, social identity, political structures and imperial structures, then in the beauty as philosophy and taste and fashion idea, have been used for promotion of these big ideas in the small artifacts. And I think this is very important, just to have in mind that the small artifacts are affordable and they are movable, and they come across to different parts of empire, and they can actually materialize big philosophical or political or social ideas on the language, visual and written language understood to most of the common citizens. Also, this is part of global antiquities, just to compare two big empires in the way of the similar or same archaeological objects, which could be part for future discussion and understanding. I didn't focus on, are there some mirrors from China found in the Roman Empire, or some Roman mirrors found in the Chinese Empire, or what are the places in the Central Asia they have the both mirrors, because this is another part of Silk Road studies or connection studies. And furthermore, I would like to mention mirror studies as potentially new established field, which we promote during my dissertation and our project, which is called Mirror Studies, with the conferences and other materials collecting in the comparative and the global perspective. Thank you for your attention, and please contact me, and I'm looking forward to have questions.
Thank you, Goran. That was absolutely amazing. I have to admit, I've never really thought about mirrors as essentially doubling a person, essentially having two persons, the person who looks into the mirror and the person looking out of the mirror. So I think that's definitely loads of food for thought for Roman mirrors or Iron Age mirrors. So I think that's really great. We already have one question in the chat. Susan is asking, what about the use of mirrors as weapons to direct the sun rays, for example, to create fire, as it has allegedly been done in sea battles around Sicily. Is there anything about similar things in China as well?
Yes, the mirrors have been used for creating fire in China, mostly in the religious purposes, to creating fire as some kind of sacred fire according to religious rituals. About this idea of fire ships of Sicily and this Archimedes idea of mirror, it is still an issue of discussion, because they are trying to do some kind of experimental archaeology to see if it's possible to create this kind of fire.
Yeah, absolutely. We have another question from Liz. She's asking whether you are also researching the metallurgy of mirrors.
In the context of analyzing specific mirrors, I did not research this way about the optics or the chemical parts. Of course, what we can conclude about this on the basics is that, as I said, the China, they have just bronze mirrors. In the Rome, they have different mirrors. Particularly are important these lead glass mirrors, which have been probably developed or even invented in the Roman Empire, probably somewhere in the Near East. But it is, at the moment, the key problem with this is the low number of the workshops for mirrors and production centers, both in China and in Rome, because the number of found mirrors and the number of found workshops are in the discrepancy, which is the problem for now.
I have another question
yes,
myself. So at least with loads of provincial Roman context, quite often mirrors found in a grave together with other cosmetic items. It is traditionally then always assumed that this must be a female burial. Whether we agree with that or not is a completely different discussion. But is that similar in China? Are mirrors used to assign gender? Are they actually found a lot in graves, or do they come from other contexts? So are there parallels between Roman archaeology and Chinese archaeology?
Actually, in this my research, I discuss a lot about these issues, and there are pretty clear. In China, the mirrors have been used in both genders, male and female. They have been found in the tombs. In the Han Dynasty, almost exclusively mirrors have been found in the tombs, except few examples. They are found in the shipwrecks, sometimes on the roads, but we don't have the clear examples on the settlements. While in the Rome, at least the later research prove us from Belgium, from Netherlands, from UK, from Serbia, and from Romania that mirrors have been found in the male tombs as well, not just in the female tombs, which could little bit reshape the idea of mirrors as a cosmetic objects. The major idea has been based on some kind of reading some sources that put mirrors just in context of the female world, particularly Ovid, but it is very hard to prove in this way archaeologically that mirrors have been just related to females, because not just that we have them in the male tombs, we also have a lot of mirrors found in the limes part, which I think it's very important to understand mirrors as objects for part of membership in the Roman or Chinese Empire. Because if you are living on the border area, you will use mirrors to create your visual image different from barbarians outside the empire. And also it's very important to social code, doesn't matter if you're a civilian or a soldier, to follow this. So I think the mirrors have been used both in these parts, for male and females in the Rome and in the China. And I think the difference on this part of gender maybe is some kind of misunderstanding. This is my opinion.
I think that, I think that's really interesting, because another thing I've never really thought about, because we're so used to having mirrors, obviously, the idea that it gives you agency over how you look like. You don't have to believe someone else in them judging you and whether you look the way how you want to look like. You can actually check it yourself. It gives you a lot of agency, a lot of independence. And I think that's really interesting. I personally just have never really thought about mirrors that way. We have another question from Susan. She says, that was a really interesting talk. Can you say a bit more about the Neronian mirror coins?
Yes, so the Neronian mirror coins have been created as part of one certain coin, different coins. It is not just one exact type of coin during the Neronian era, and they are put in the center of circled reflective surface. So they integrate coin and mirror, and they have been found in the different contexts, particularly in the military or some towns or civilian places nearby military camps. And they have been found, for example, in the France, but also in the Germany and in the modern Eastern Europe, particularly, I think it's Ukraine today. But there are not so many examples, and this is not the only, this is the first but not the only mirror coins created in the Rome. Later, from the other emperors, particularly from the Antonines, they create this as well. So why they create this? Maybe it is related to idea or ideology of Neronian, which is related to gold and light. And even we have from Suetonius and Seneca who present them in this context. So it could be related to this idea of light and some kind of gold or promotion of illumination in one hand. In another hand, it could be symbolic ways of Neron as himself who is presenting. Because even we have some certain inscriptions that sometimes when the emperor was absent, they use some kind of sculpture of emperor and then they illuminate it by mirrors. So it is some kind of a ritual, particularly in the political ritual in the Roman cities. So this could be a reason why they produce this kind of mirror coins.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Are there any further questions? Please feel free to either just type them in the chat, or if you want to just ask in person, just unmute yourself.
I just add the website of our project just to make free commercial from it. So it is Mirror Studies project. It is not project just about the Rome and Qin and Han Empire. Instead, it is a large project about actually the global mirrors from prehistory to 19th century. We are just at the beginning. We are making GIS map and we are collecting historical sources, and we are also organizing some events, including YouTube talks, conference for younger students, and workshops.
So, that's great. Yeah, definitely going to have a look at that. A few years ago, listened to a really interesting talk about parallels between Chinese and Japanese mirrors. So it seems that there's a lot of really interesting research as well.
Yes, I think it is some kind of cultural issue because researching mirrors in China is on the larger or bigger or deeper level than researching mirror what we can call the West or Europe. It's very hard to say why. No, it is not, of course, just related to Han Dynasty. It's related to later understanding of mirrors and usage of mirrors and the number of mirrors. And also it is an issue about the language, because in the Roman Empire, a lot of archaeologists, when they found mirrors, they produced in their local languages. So sometimes it's very hard to find a larger audience, particularly because the mirrors have been found in the countries where the small language population, like Serbia, Romania, or Bulgaria.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I do get the impression, I mean, I haven't really read a lot about mirrors recently, but I did Etruscan archaeology many years ago, but obviously mirrors are very important. But I do get the impression that a lot of Western archaeology is more focused on the images and depictions on the back of the mirrors and the handles and the actual use of the mirror. So all the things you've been talking about, the reflection and all that, isn't really considered. So I think that's really interesting to just take it away from the decorative aspect and actually go to practice theory. Can you say something about the images on Chinese mirrors? Are they mainly geometrical like the ones you've shown, or do they also have figurative scenes?
Yes, so what I spoke, it is part of my PhD thesis, which is pretty large, and this is actually part how I actually try to understand reflection with both sides, reflective and decorative sides. You're totally right. A lot of scholars, both in China and in other parts of the world, they put their emphasis on the decoration, and the decoration in the Rome are mostly related to mythical and mythological images. Sometimes there are some heroes, and we have certain number of mirrors that are not decorated. It is an issue, are they not decorated in the time when they're made, or just we have it in the way they're not decorated? In the China, the decorations have been also related to Taoist, Buddhist, and Confucianist motifs with the mythical and mythology, or geometrical motifs, or some kind of astronomical phenomena or astronomical objects, including clouds or sun, or some plants or flowers. So actually, this is different because what we know from the China, that the decoration from the Western Han to Eastern Han have been changed, and this is a change of influence of various religious movements and various philosophical ideas. While in the Rome, this kind of decoration is not been found yet, that it is changed just according to new ways of new production. Of course, I should say one important thing, that I stopped with my research at the 3rd century. So I didn't go deeper to 4th century, 5th century, which is a different part in China with 3 empires or 3 kingdom period. But in Rome, it's very interesting because it is kind of Christian era, and probably different usage of mirrors and different iconography of mirrors.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. Are there any further questions? Yeah, David, do you just want to speak?
Yeah, really just something which might be of interest to colleagues and perhaps particularly to Goran.
Yes,
I'm currently involved in a fairly wide-ranging initiative of collaboration between Hadrian's Wall and the Great Wall of China. And as part of this program, there are a couple of proposals for developing specifically 2 comparative exhibitions. And the one that's perhaps of most relevance here is a comparative exhibition between Qin and Han and ancient Roman arms and armor. So if colleagues would like to know more about that, I'd be happy to let them know. And Goran, if you wish, I'll keep you informed as that goes forward.
Oh yes, please, thank you. It's very interesting to have this kind of comparison, and also in this way. I shared my email at the beginning. I don't know if you can see it. I can copy again.
Any further questions from anyone else? Oh, yes. So we have another question asking whether you could talk a little bit about your GIS research in mirror studies.
Yes, in our website, we actually use world map to show this distribution of mirrors. At the moment, we add different kinds of political entities, including Rome and China, and we divide them according to different, we can say, archaeological context, including tombs, roads, settlements, sanctuaries, or unfortunately unknown, which is pretty much, because some of the museum collections, they do not have their certain archaeological data related to this. And we showed the distribution of mirrors have been very interesting, in particular in the border areas, particularly in the contact zones. And we even find some places in the Central Asia, particularly Afghanistan or Azerbaijan, where at the same place found the different mirrors, including Rome and Chinese mirrors, which is interesting for deeper research. Also, we add on this map the museums that have collection of the mirrors. And now we will add more detailed, including images and including the different materials and different certain archaeological contexts. Because, for example, at the moment, we put Rome on the map with one dot. And of course, in the Rome, there are various mirrors in the various necropolis and various settlements. We need to add it more and deeper.
That sounds really great. If there are no further questions, I would just like to say thank you, Goran, and I will hand over to Catherine again.
Hi, thank you again. That was wonderful. And thank you to everyone that joined us today. And just to let everyone know that we will have our final track webinar of this year on April 27th. And we hope everyone, we'll see some of you joining for that, and it will be given by Maria Montalone on the topic of introducing archaeohydraulics as an archaeological science, new perspectives into the study of water structures. So I hope to see many of you there for our final track webinar of this year. And once again, thank you for joining us today, and Goran for this fantastic presentation. I think you've given all of us a lot of food for thought as we go forward on just comparative studies in general, as well as different ways of looking into mirrors that I think many of us have not thought of before. So thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity, and I hope that we will have a lot of success in the future research, all of us. Thank you.